I'm going to ask you in today's gospel account to look at two characters who are actually peripheral to the story we have today. The first one I'd like you to look at is John the Baptizer. John the Baptizer, in the preceding Sundays, John the Baptizer had this powerful ministry, and he's way in the the south of Israel. And so Jesus comes clear down from where he is in Nazareth, and he comes down to the ministry of John. John points out who Jesus is, and then gathers his apostles to follow Jesus. All of the early apostles, those mentioned at the Sea of Galilee here, they were all originally disciples of John the Baptizer. And so this whole group gathers around Jesus. Then John is arrested. And the reaction of Jesus goes as far away from that area as possible, goes to the extreme north, and literally abandons John. I deal with a lot of people in prison. That's what happens to everyone who goes to prison. As soon as you're arrested, the people you know, the people you're friends, the people you're involved with, somehow move, and they're gone. It's one of the most horrible effects of imprisonment. That's exactly what happened to John the Baptizer. The most important man he dealt with, he built up his whole ministry. Jesus is gone. Now you and I know the ministry that Jesus will go on with. And we also know from later texts, John the Baptizer had a very specific ministry in the prison. He gathered more disciples and everything. But look just at that moment. The other person I'd like you to look at is Zebedee. Zebedee, it says, is in the boat, preparing nets with his sons. Remember, people didn't live very long in those days. 40s was about when people died. Zebedee has two sons who are old enough to help him in the business, so I'm going to put him at least in his 30s. He's looking at these men who will be the support of him in the rest of his life. Suddenly Jesus comes by. Zebedee's abandoned. Zebedee's all alone. And we know nothing more about Zebedee at all. His wife comes up later in the text. But we know nothing more about Zebedee at all, other than the fact that these two men leave and we go off to the ministry of these two men. I think one of the things to understand about the story is always written from a separate point of view. And you just don't see everyone, or a story would spread out like water on a table. I saw a play one time in England that was very fine. You have to go 4 nights to see the whole play. It's actually 4 separate plays. And it is a building in which there are 4 rooms, and the play takes place in 4 different rooms. And the interesting thing about the play is there are 4 characters who are very important to that play. And depending on which night you go, that's the one you see. But the play is so interacted that when you see a person leave from one room, they're actually going to the next part in the other room. And the thing is, you just see who the play is concerned with here. When you go in the next night, you see there's a whole other thing going on in the other room, where a whole other person is the focus. One of the things that's difficult for us to understand when we read the scriptures is that John was no less called than Jesus. Zebedee was no less called than James and John. The fact of the matter is, every single person has a call on the face of the earth. Every single person has a role and a position in God's building his kingdom. And whenever the story is written, there's a focus on a particular person. But to always remember, every other person in the thing has a call, has a mission, and a purpose in the presence of God. It's something to remind ourselves about our own lives, because I don't think many of us are going to be the focus of a biography one day. Maybe some of us. I pray anyone who really knows me is not the one who writes it. But anyway, we probably won't be a focus of a biography one day. But the fact of the matter is we each have a call, and our call is in reference to other people. Our call is in reference to God. And every person on the face of the earth who hears the call of God follows that call. And we are all involved in all these different things. But in each person, the primary relationship is to the call of God. There are people we relate to, people we're involved with, but every single person has a call. and every single person's call matters.